Hello students, myself Dr. Manoj Kumar Sharma. I am teaching in Rajiv Gandhi National University of Law as Assistant Professor of Law, and I am teaching Constitution over there. Today we shall discuss democratic and republican form of government. Well friends, all of you are aware of that owing to different political ideologies, political theories and the circumstances prevailing in a country, the forms of government in different countries across the globe cannot be the same. That is different. It is bound to be different because the different systems, different form, the same form of government cannot work well in different circumstances. Accordingly, we find various popular forms of government exist, which include republic, democratic republic, which includes monarchy, which includes aristocracy, which includes there have been oligarchies as well. Therefore, we find that different forms of government they exist in the world today. However, democracy and the democratic republic form of government has been regarded as the best form of government. Despite it being regarded as the best form of government, some scholars like Sir Henry Maine, Sir like Oswald Spengler, they have condemned the democracy outrightly. As we discussed, as we said, that same form of government cannot work well in different setups. For example, if we look at countries with different ideology, countries with communism ideology, democracy has not worked well in those countries. Similarly, there are countries where the military coups have taken place, and in fact, they have overthrown the popular governments and established military dictatorships, and they have been working well and enjoying the popular sovereignty in those countries. Therefore, we cannot say that one particular form is better for one country and one is better for the other country. But if we see the situation today, we find that mixed systems of government are in vogue in different countries across the world, democratic republic being one of the most popular forms of government. Today, we shall be dealing with this topic in order to apprise the reader about various popular forms of government, and to analyze and understand democratic and republican form of government. Also to analyze forms of government in various countries like US, German, France, and to analyze the nature of democratic polity in India. The scheme of the presentation shall be, first we will be discussing some of the popular forms of government. Then we shall proceed to discuss democracy and republic. The conceptual analysis shall be made. And then we shall look at international documents to find out whether the international covenants and international documents in the form of UDHR, they lay down any guidelines for the type of government in these documents. Then we will look at the historical perspective of democratic and republican form of government. Then we will trace the forms of government in various countries like US, Germany and France. And finally, we shall be dealing with the democratic and republican government in India, ancient India and in the modern India. Then we will summarize the entire topic. To begin with, as we said, that there are various forms of government in various countries. If we look at monarchy, till the beginning of 19th century, it was the most popular form of government, where all sovereign power lie in sovereign supreme ruler, that is the king. The king, all power emanated from the king. He had the sovereign powers, and all governmental power owed its origin to the king. Even today, many countries have monarchy like UK, Japan, Saudi Arabia, Australia, New Zealand, Morocco, Canada, Bhutan, Malaysia. These countries are having monarchy even today. But then we see that monarchy as it existed prior to the advent of 19th century, it does not exist in the same form today. Now these sort of governments are partly monarchic, but they are having rigid or flexible constitutions. They are having democratic values as well, and they are having monarchy as well. Under the constitution, they have established constitutional monarchs. Then there is another type of government, aristocracy. Word aristocracy is derived from the Greek word aristokratia, which is composed of two words, aristos and kratia. Aristos means the best, and kratia means the power, the rule. That means it implies a rule by the best. So therefore, it was regarded as a rule by the best persons in the society, and some of the ancient thinkers, philosophers have regarded aristocracy as the best form of government. Then we have another popular form of government like dictatorship. As we said, that in some of the countries, military coups have taken place, and in those military coups, some of the popular governments have been thrown away, and the military dictatorship has been established. Dictatorship, as its meaning, as this term implies, does not exist in the real sense of the term as it existed prior to the World War. But now, even today, some military dictatorships are existing. If we look at some countries like Cuba, Libya, North Korea, for some time in Pakistan, Bangladesh, we found that military rulers or military establishment has overthrown the civil establishment and has taken control in them. But then these military dictatorships are also existing under popular sovereignty these days, and they have been existing, as I said, under popular sovereignty, and they still exist today. And next form of government is democratic republic form of government. We shall be dealing with this in a short while from now. So far as democracy is concerned, word democracy is derived from the word democratia, which is composed of two words, demos and kratos. Demos means common people, whereas kratos implies rule. Therefore, democracy, literally speaking, means a rule by the common people, a rule by majority. Aristotle defined democracy as a rule of the poor and a rule of masses, not classes. That means Aristotle defined democracy as a rule by the poor class, poor citizenry, and but then some of the authors have defined democracy as a majority rule as opposed to a republican form of government. Democracy has also been defined as ability of the people to choose and dismiss a government. For example, if we look at the decision of the Apex Court, R.C. Paudyal versus Union of India, 1993, agreeing with some of the scholars, declared that democracy is the ability of the people to choose and dismiss a government. At this juncture, it is worth mentioning to discuss another type of government, that is oligarchy, which means rule by the few, rich and the few. It is, if you look at the democracies as they exist across the world, you find that only a few class is ruling the entire community. Though the government is elected, though people exercise their franchise, but then the rule is perpetuated, one family rule is perpetuated, or there are dynasties which are actually political dynasties which are actually existing, and it is basically an oligarchy. But then, as we said earlier, that in the present world today, we have mixed types of government, and the traditional age-old classification of governments as monarchy, as democracy, as oligarchy, that does not exist in the strict sense of the term. Now, going to the next concept, republic. Republic is derived from the word res publica, which means the public thing. Black's Law Dictionary, 6th edition, defines a republican government as government of the people, a government by the representatives chosen by the people. Thus, the definition makes it clear that a republican government is a government by the people, or the government chosen by government by the representatives of the people. Thus, it is at par with what we call as democracy, that is government of the people, government for the people, government by the people, government chosen by the people. 7th edition of the Black's Law Dictionary it does not define the word republican government, instead it chooses to define a republic. It says, a republic as a system of government in which the people hold a sovereign power and elect representatives who exercise that powers. It contrasts on one hand with the pure democracy, in which the people or community as an organized whole wield the sovereign power of government, and on the other hand with the rule of the person such as king, emperor, czar or sultan. Therefore, if we read this definition, analyze this definition, that a republic is a form of government where the sovereign power lies with the people. It is the people who elect their representatives. It is those representatives chosen by the people who govern the people, and therefore it is a sort of synthesis. On the one hand, as we say, it is a midway. On the one hand, we talk about majoritarian rule under the democracy, where there is a majoritarian rule, and on the other hand, it is somewhere in between, a rule by a king, by an emperor, czar or sultan. It is worthwhile because democracy and republic, they have been used at par, they have been used as synonyms at various places. But then in reality, there is a difference between democracy and republic so far as the literal meanings are concerned. In democracy, we mean a rule by masses. We mean a rule by elected representatives. Now, in democracy, it may happen that there is a rule by majority, because how the democracy is exercised? Democracy is exercised by way of referendums or by way of elections which are held periodically. And here the will of the people is determined through elections, which is represented in the shape of majority. Thus it is a rule by majority, or as some have called, a rule by mob. The majoritarian rule may sometimes take a shape of such a form of government where the minority is denied their rights, where the minorities' rights are not protected, where they do not have got equal space. Whereas when we talk about a republic, we not only talk about that the head of the state is elected, we not only talk about that the sovereign power lies in the government, lies in people, that all power emanate from the people, but also we conceive a state where the rights of people of belonging to minority community, they are also protected, they are also preserved, they get equal space, they get equal suffrage, they have got equal say in the government. Therefore, when we say democratic republic, in the modern sense of the term, we mean a government where the head of the state is elected, where the government is run by the representatives of the people, where that the rights of the people belonging to the minority community in particular, they are guaranteed. They are guaranteed normally under the constitutions these days, and they have equal right to participate in the government. That is what we mean by a democratic republic these days. If we look at democratic nature of government, and we look at the historical perspective, the direct evidence is available that there was direct democracy exercised in Greek. As we said, the democratic word democracy is derived from Greek word demokratia, and that the origin of direct democracy can also be traced to Greek. In small city states of Athens, direct democracy was exercised. People used to choose their, used to vote on various decisions of the government. Military leaders were appointed. Even the judges were chosen by the people by way of voting. That means direct election, direct democracy was being practiced in small city states. But this form of government, that is direct democracy, that is not possible or feasible in a larger setup. That could have been practiced in small city states of Athens, but in the modern states it could not be practiced, because every decision of the government, you cannot go to the people and you cannot ask them to vote. Therefore, we find soon thereafter in various parts of the globe a representative democracy that emerged. A representative democracy where the government is run not directly by the people but indirectly. That means they choose their representatives, their nominees, by way of election, and it is their representatives who run the government, who make decisions on their behalf, and then these representatives again go in for their re-election, and the people exercise their will by electing or rejecting them. Therefore, we find that this system of government, representative democracy, that soon gained ground, and we find that in England, in France, in Russia, these institutions, representative institutions, they began to come up. In 14th century, we find the institutions like Parliament in England, a States General in France. Then we find in Spain also, we find the Cortes, Duma in Russia, all these Diet in Japan, all these representative institutions, they came up in order where the people were, the representatives of the people were chosen, and these institutions who were representative institutions, they started running the government. But the democracy in the real sense as we understand today, in the real sense as we understand that the rights are exercised, that began in the form of elections to gain ground after the French Revolution of 1789. Thus we have seen the growth of democratic representative institutions, we have traced the history of democracy in the ancient world. Now it is worthwhile to move on to the next section, that is international documents and the provisions contained in international documents pertaining to popular form of government. First of all, let us refer to Universal Declaration on Human Rights, Article 21. Now if we read Article 21, that says everyone has the right to take part in the government of his country, directly or through freely chosen representatives. Clause 2 says everyone has the right of equal access to public services in his country, and thirdly and importantly, that the will of the people shall be the basis of the authority of the governments. This will shall be exercised in periodic and genuine elections, which shall be by universal and equal suffrage and shall be held by secret vote or by equivalent free voting procedure. Thus, Article 21 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights very clearly lays down that the government, the form of government in countries should be democratic form of government, where people have the right to choose their own representatives, to be governed indirectly by their own representatives, and also that the elections which are to be held for choosing the representatives of the people, they should be genuine elections. The will of the election should be held periodically. The article talks about that everyone should be having the right to vote regardless of his sex, his community, religion, caste, creed. Everyone should be having the right to vote, and the vote of every person should be equal. The vote, it should not be that one person's vote is entitled to greater weight than the vote of another person. And then it declares that the voting should be by secret manner, in such a manner that the people are not subject to any discriminations because they have voted for a particular party. Now, moving on, International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, Article 1966, Article 25. It declares that every citizen. Now you contrast this with the Article 21 of UDHR. Article 21 UDHR said everyone, whereas ICCPR 1966 Article 25 says every citizen. Therefore, the rights guaranteed in ICCPR, they are limited to citizens, whereas the Universal Declaration spelled out the rights of every person, whether he is a citizen or he is not a citizen. Now, proceeding further, it says every citizen shall have the right and the opportunity, without any of the distinctions mentioned in Article 2 of this ICCPR, and without reasonable restrictions, to take part in the conduct of public affairs, directly or through freely chosen representatives. Therefore, we find that Article 25 of ICCPR, which is a document ratified by our country, also adopted by various countries, that clearly lays down that every citizen has a right to take part in the conduct of public affairs, directly or through representatives. That means it talks about direct or representative democracy, and it ensures that every citizen is given the right to choose his representatives, and also it declares that every citizen shall have the right and opportunity to vote and to be elected at genuine elections, which shall be universal, and equal suffrage to be held by secret vote, guaranteeing the free expression of the will of the electors. A plain reading of Article 25 suggests that it talks about that right to vote shall be granted to all, and then every vote should be equal. Every person's right vote shall carry equal weightage, and that all, regardless of their region, caste, community, language, they shall have the right to vote. And it also lays emphasis on that elections through which the people have to exercise their will, they have to exercise their representatives, they should be genuine. Further, it also talks about, like its predecessor, like its counterpart in UDHR, that expression of the will should be through by secret vote, so as nobody is discriminated only for the reason that he has voted for a particular party. Now, let us see position prevailing in some other countries. To begin with, let us see the position in US. Article 4, Section 4 of the United States Constitution provides that the United States shall guarantee to every state in the Union a republican form of government. Now you see, the peculiar thing about this clause of Article 4, Section 4 of the US Constitution is, it is not saying a democratic form of government, it is saying everyone, the United States shall guarantee to every state in this union a republican form of government, which implies that the head of the state is chosen by people directly by way of elections, and that if we look at medicine papers, we find, especially paper 10 and 39, we find that he has attempted to define a republican form, and whereas he has said that it is a form of government where the people have the right, They have their rights which are protected. Every individual has the rights, whether he is having a distinct culture, whether he is a person belonging to majority, whether he is a person belonging to minority. Every person has a right. That kind of government where the nominal head, where the head of the state is elected by the people, that kind of government where the rights of people are protected, that kind of government where there is no majoritarian rule, rather the rights of minorities are also protected under the Constitution. That's what the United States Constitution contemplates. If we look at the decision of the Supreme Court in Cavada versus Bull of the US, we find that a republican form of government is a form of government which is dedicated to the basic principle that governments are elected, they are created to safeguard fundamental rights, emphasizing the point that the republican form of government must protect the fundamental rights of the people. And similarly, if you look at Van Sickle versus Shanahan, again the Kansas High Court, dealing with the republican form of government, declared that separation of powers is an inherent and integral element of the republican form of government. Now, if we look at the provisions or the position in Australia, we find that a republican form of government, which under the Constitution, United States shall guarantee to every state, includes not only the democracy, but also it contains safeguards against majoritarian rule. Now, let us have a glimpse of what French Constitution has to say. If you look at the French Constitution, Article 3, it provides that national sovereignty shall rest in the people, who shall exercise it through their representatives and by means of referendum. That means Article 3 of the French Constitution talks about representative form of government as well as pure democracy, where people can vote on a particular issue by way of referendum. It also talks that basically the sovereignty lies in the people, the power emanates from the people who exercise it through elections, which of course are held periodically. Then the article goes on to say that no section of the people nor any individual may arrogate to itself or to himself the exercise thereof. Now you see that the next clause is saying suffrage may be direct or indirect as provided for by the Constitution. It shall always be universal, equal and secret. Now, universal suffrage, equal suffrage, both these doctrines have been embodied in the French Constitution, meaning thereby that everybody should be entitled to vote, and the vote of everybody should be alike, should be equal, not that one person belonging to one community, his vote shall carry greater weight than the vote of another community. And most importantly, this clause is also talking about that secrecy of voting must be maintained. To whom a person has voted, that must always be maintained, that must always be kept secret, because if it is not kept secret, a person may be subjected to vagaries of the chosen government, because they may see if this particular person has not voted for us, naturally he may be subjected to some sort of discrimination. That is why all international documents, that is why the international provisions contained in various constitutions, they talk that the vote, it should be kept secret to whom a person has voted. Now, moving on, if you see further Article 3, it says all French citizens of either sex who have reached their majority and are in possession of their civil and political rights may vote as provided for by statute. Therefore, this clause talks about universal adult franchise and equal suffrage. That means all those persons who have reached the age of majority shall be entitled to vote without any discrimination. It must be remembered here that not only that the French Constitution talks about that every person has got a right to vote. If we look at various constitutions, we find that people or everybody has equal right to contest elections also, which is also part of this democratic and republican form of government. Now have a look at German provisions contained in the German Constitution. If we look at Article 20, Clause 1, which provides that Federal Republic of Germany shall be democratic and social welfare state. Thus, the Constitution itself declares the German Constitution to be a democratic constitution. Article 20, Clause 2, that reads, all state authority is derived from the people and it shall be exercised by the people through elections and other votes and through specific legislative, executive and judicial bodies. Plain reading of Article 20 suggests that not only the German Constitution is a democratic constitution, but then it also very clearly lays down that the power, the sovereignty of the state is derived not from some emperor, not from some outside authority, but from the people, and it is exercised by the people either directly or through representation. That means representative form of democracy. Now, before dealing with this part, democratic and republican government in ancient India, let us remind ourselves that, as we said, that there are different kinds of government. Likewise, even in democracy, we find that democracy may be direct democracy, it may be representative democracy, or in case of representative democracy also, we find there can be different types of government. There can be cabinet form of government like in India or in UK. There can be this presidential form of government like in US. Even as I said earlier, that the forms of government, there are mixed types of government these days. For example, we find in UK there is a constitutional monarch, but then it is a democracy as well. Though we can call it a monarchy, but then it has all the features of democracy also. Now moving on to the present topic, that is democratic and republican government in ancient India. There is enough literature on the subject which suggests and which evidences that a republican form of government and democratic institutions existed in ancient India during Vedic period as well as in the post-Vedic period. If you look at the Vedic period, we find that Rig Veda, words Sabha and Smriti, they have been used. Now, word Sabha, that has been referred to as body of as the house of people, whereas Smriti has been referred to as body of elders. They have been referred to as twin daughters of Prajapati. If you look at the writings of K.P. Jaiswal, he talks that Smriti was a national assembly consisting of common people. Some other scholars have said it was a national assembly consisting of not only the common people but also the Brahmins, also the rich people, whatever may be the differences, so far as what Smriti consisted of. But then one must not lose sight of the fact that Smriti was a very powerful body. It used to elect military leaders, it used to elect the king, the monarch. That means the Smriti, which is the assembly of people, was a representative government, representative body, choosing people, choosing the king, the person who is to run the government. If we look at Rig Veda, you find Sabhas and Smritis have been used in at numerous occasions. Now, if you see Gana, now Gana, which literally means number, and Ganarajya, which means rule of numbers. That means Gana has been equated with modern republic or senate. Again, it was an elected body. It was a very sophisticated, it was an elected body. It has been used in varied senses. In Rig Veda, you find 60 times the word Gana has been used. If you look at the post-Vedic period, especially if you look at Buddhist period, there also you find word Sangha or Ganarajya has been used at various places. During the Buddhist period, Sangha, or which referred to as assembly, this assembly was sovereign. This used to elect the military leaders. This used to control the war and peace. This used to control foreign affairs. Therefore, we find even during the Buddhist period, democratic and republican form of government was in existence. If we look at this period, we find that various states there, the existence of a republican form of government was there, whether these were Mauryans, whether these are Sakyas or Ishvayas or Mallas or Richvikas, all these states you find that a republican form of government was in existence. However, this republican form of government that lost relevance during the medieval period, especially during the Muslim period. In the British period initially, there were hardly any traces of republican form of government. Indian Councils Act 1861 that provided for nominated members. There was no representation for local people. There was hardly any representation for local people, and even the persons who were representing, they were nominated. In Indian Councils Act 1892, members were nominated. However, for the first time, the act talked about representation to the local people, and it provided for small representation to the local people. However, there were no elections. Again, the people who were representing, they were nominated. Indian Councils Act 1909 introduced legislative councils. Now, in these legislative councils, you find the members were elected out of in Central Legislative Council, out of 68, 27 members were elected. However, they were elected from special constituencies. A reservation of seats on the basis of region was there. Muslims were granted special seats who were to be elected on the basis of communal electoral rolls consisting of Muslim voters only. Therefore, we find that it was not a representative body. Then we look at Government of India Act 1919, which provided for bicameral legislature. It provided for elected members, and if you see, for the first time, elected members were in majority in the council, in the legislature. But it also continued with the practice of reservation of seats for Muslims. In addition, it provided a reservation of seats for Sikhs. The franchise was not adult and equal. Rather, the qualifications for votes were on the basis of ownership of property, land holdings, payment of income tax and municipal taxes. Government of India Act 1935 provided for a federal structure, but then it was left to the princely states whether they wished to join the federation or not, and consequently princely states were not willing to join the federation and they never joined the federation. So federal structure could never be put into practice. But it also provided for it, the practice under the 1919 Act continued, and there were elected members. However, there was no universal equal suffrage. The elections were based on the communal electoral rolls. Separate electoral rolls were prepared for the Muslims, where only Muslim voters could elect their representatives. Thereafter, we find, as soon before the independence of the Constitution, when the Constituent Assembly was constituted, we find that on 13 December 1946, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru moved an objective resolution which aimed at, among other things, to proclaim India as an independent sovereign republic. It was adopted on 22nd January 1947. Now, after the Independence Act 1947 was enacted and it was brought into force, it gave India dominion status. India did not become a republic. It only gave India dominion status under the control of the British Commonwealth, and the British government retained with itself the power to appoint the Governor General. The current constitution was enacted and adopted on 26 November 1949. Some people argued that the preamble of the constitution should be brought into force immediately. But then, as rightly observed by H.M. Sirvai, noted constitutional expert, it could not have been done because constitution was to take effect from 26th January 1950. Till that date, India was a dominion under the British government. Therefore, it was not sovereign republic. Since it was not a sovereign republic, preamble could not have been adopted, could not have been made applicable from 26 January 1949, because the preamble declared India to be a sovereign democratic republic. Now, the preamble which says that India is a sovereign democratic republic, and the republic, people of India, we the people of India have given unto ourselves this preamble, this constitution, which aims at equality, which aims at liberty, which aims at justice. Therefore, if we look at the preamble of the Indian Constitution, that very clearly not only says that India shall be a democratic republic, but it also lays the ingredients of a democracy, ingredients of a republic, where we say that every person, there should be equality of status and of opportunity, where we say that every person should be entitled, have equal access to justice, justice of social justice, economic justice, political justice. Thus, the preamble objectives are and if we see the provisions contained in the Constitution, especially in Part 15 of the Constitution, Articles 324 and 325, we find that the preamble objectives of creating a democratic republic, they have been enshrined in Part 15 of the Constitution. Article 324 in particular, which provides for that the control of elections, that is the preparation of electoral rolls, that is the conduct of elections of the president, of the vice president and of the legislatures, that shall rest in an independent election commission. In tune with the international practices, the election commission has been made an independent body to conduct the elections so that the elections are free, fair and genuine elections are conducted. Article 325 contains a very, very important provision which says that no person shall be ineligible to be included in the electoral rolls on the grounds only of religion, sex, caste, race or any of them. That means every person has that universal franchise, every person has a right to be included in the electoral roll, regardless of his community, regardless of his language, regardless of his sex, regardless of his religion. And you find that similar, this principle has been adopted in the Representation of People Act 1951 also, where section 62 declares that everyone has a right to vote, subject however to whatever restrictions which may be laid down by law, but everyone has a right to vote. Democracy, all of you understand and all of us know that that has been regarded as the part of basic structure of the Indian Constitution. In S.R. Bommai versus Union of India, in R.C. Paudel versus Union of India, the Apex Court had the occasion to dwell upon this topic, what kind of democratic republic we are. The court opined that it has become fashionable or profitable to describe every kind of government as democratic republic these days. For example, the court gave examples like Russia, court gave examples of countries where communism is there, like China, which describe themselves as a democratic republic. The court opined that just by describing a constitution as a democratic republic, it does not have the ingredients of a democracy, or it does not become a democratic republic. Democracy means that there has to be equality. Democratic republic means when not only that the elections are held genuinely, periodically, free and fair elections, but also that the rights are granted to all, that everyone has the right to participate equally in the formation of the government, in administering the people. Therefore, it contemplates equality, it contemplates people's power, it contemplates equal participation of the people. Therefore, if you look at the provisions contained in the Constitution of India and also the provisions contained in Representation of People Act 1951 and the election laws, maybe Representation of People Act 1950, which talks about the election machinery and conduct of election rules 1961, all these laws taken together, you find that the constitutional objective of making India a democratic republic that finds place, not only it finds its place, but it has been very ably, very purposely reflected in these provisions. The Representation of People Act provides to us universal adult franchise. Every person who is a major, that means who has achieved the age of 18, he has a right, not only that he can participate in the government by way of electing his representative, nobody can be denied the right to vote only on the ground that he is belonging to a particular caste or a particular community, or that he belongs to a particular sex. The legislative measures made in India, they provide clearly that we have adopted the principle of universal adult franchise, we have adopted the international document, international principle of equal suffrage, and therefore we find, and in order to ensure that these are not these institutions, that means the Election Commission of India, which is entrusted with the task of ensuring that free and fair elections are held in this country, it has been ensured in the Constitution that this is an independent body. It has been ensured now that it is a representative body, that it does not become a dictator, that it does not fall victim to the majority, it does not fall victim to party politics. Its independence has been ensured. Therefore, we find that India is a democratic republic going by the Constitution and other enactments which have been brought in place. It was a republic in ancient India, it is a republic in the present day world also. Thank you.